died. 47 years old. Going to get a gallbladder operation. And when they opened her up, cancer was everywhere. On the pancreas, on the liver, and on her, the part they took out, it was all in there raging. And guess what? When they opened up, when she went to get her surgery, they told her everything looked good, everything was fine, that she didn't have cancer nowhere, and she'd be able to go back to work in 6 weeks. She died in a month. Because it was stage 4. Don't take our lives lightly, please don't. Amen. Because we can go to the doctor and, like she did, she wasn't looking to get cancer, me either. And then stage 4 on top of that, her whole life changed because then she had a reason to live. She thought. Because she figured she going home after 6 years. And she did. For a month she was home. So don't take this lightly. I don't take it lightly. That's why we're having the council walks and everywhere. So we told it serious. It ain't time for no bounce houses. There ain't no time for playing and playing around. Because we don't know who's next. We don't know what family. We don't know it's going to be one of our children. We don't know it's going to be our mother. We don't know who it's going to be next. And so we got to be prepared. Because when they suffer, they're going to need extra care. They're going to need extra smiles, extra love, extra everything that we got. And if it's us, somebody's going to need to give it to us. So I don't want us to go away from here just like when we had the council walk. I don't want everybody to go away from here thinking it's fun. It's not. And cancer is raging. Behind heart disease, cancer is catching up. And almost about to pass it. But they neck and neck. So please, take care of your health. These programs, we might not pick one. But the things that he has given us, don't take and put them sheets down. Study them, because it might be somebody in the church, it might be a neighbor that might need those things on that paper. Yes. And God will hold us responsible because much given, what? Much is required. Right. So I just want to share that with you before we start. Before we run start. Because we're here for serious business. Serious business. Amen.
Amen. Well, we're going to be talking about a serious cancer tonight, and that is breast cancer. One thing that we mentioned on previous nights is that we can see a trend in how one organ, if it's suffering, will affect other organs. And we're going to see that tonight. In fact, a connection that you probably have never even thought of before. And before I say too much about it, I'll just stop talking for now. And I want to do our pre-test, okay? Every night we do a pre-test to test your knowledge on the causes of the specific cancer we're looking at. So we're going to be looking at breast cancer tonight. What is the number one cause of breast cancer? Number one, without a doubt, overwhelmingly, number one cause.
Those hormones, estrogen.
Estrogen, yes, that is it. That is it. Now, that being said, about 80% of, actually probably more than 80% of breast cancers are somewhat, at least enhanced by estrogen. Okay, but there are some breast cancers. There's many types of breast cancers. Some more common than others. But estrogen plays a big role. So let's just say hormones. Okay. What's another cause? And this is a common cause of other types of cancers as well. Stress, okay, yeah, well, stress, definitely. Okay, I'm thinking of substances. Alcohol, and what's the other one?
Smoking.
Diet, yeah, smoking, right? But you're right about that. We'll put that as number 4. So smoking, alcohol, and diet. Okay, now this is an important thing to consider because the hormones themselves are not really the issue here. It's not that estrogen is just going to cause cancer. It's too much estrogen. So where does that come from? Where's too much estrogen come from? Well,
Food?
it could come from diet, right? It could also come from lack of exercise. So there we have a 5th cause. Any others?
If you have surgery, your ovaries or something removed, or hysterectomy, or.
And that's going to affect your hormones, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
If
So
you
that,
diet like the bread and pastas and all that, don't that make you more estrogen dominant?
if you're eating a lot of refined foods, yes, because you're not taking in fiber. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Fiber is huge, believe it or not. You wouldn't think, well, what does fiber have to do with breast cancer? It has a lot to do with breast cancer, believe it or not, in a number of ways. And one is kind of even directly. So we'll talk about that a little bit more tonight. But you all did very well. These are, if we were to take care of all these, guess what? Breast cancer would be almost non-existent.
Amen.
Now, there are some people that are born with the genetics that have the instructions for the breast cancer growth turned on because they've inherited it. So yeah, there would still be some cases. But most cases, maybe 90% of breast cancers would be eliminated.
Birth control?
Birth control, yes, that affects your hormones, right? So anything that affects, that deranges hormones. Also, hormone replacement therapy, they're finding, is a huge indicator of aggressive breast cancer. So it can lead to that, even though it could be beneficial in some ways for relieving postmenopausal symptoms, it can still trigger the growth of breast cancer. So anything that messes with the hormones and imbalances them could be potentially an issue, especially when it increases estrogen and decreases progesterone. We'll talk about how these hormones work and things that you can do naturally to optimize them and balance them, and go a little bit further into the subject. Okay, so you all did very well, and now, as is our custom, we have a song to play about our topic. So let me just pull that up here.
6 each.
Yeah.
Take a breath, take a step, one day at a time, with love in your heart and hope in your mind. We're walking this journey in the fight for life, with a pink ribbon tied, a symbol of light. Oh, we'll stand in the strength that faith can bring, in the warmth of prayer, let our spirits sing. With every beat, with every breath, we're finding life in each small step, a path to healing, a hand to hold. In love and trust, our story is told. From earth's sweet gifts we find our way, orange peel strength in light of day, flax seeds promise a simple start, each little choice protecting the heart. Oh, we'll stand in the strength that faith can bring, in the warmth of prayer, let our spirits sing. With every beat, with every breath, we're finding life in each small step, a path to healing, a hand to hold. In love and trust, our story's told. From earth's sweet gifts we find our way, or
yet.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I like that.
Okay, so
Mm.
we are going to explore what this pink ribbon is all about.
Amen.
But we're going to hear some things that you probably have never heard before, because not a lot of people are talking about it. As Sister Buffet mentioned, a lot of people are asking for money, you know, and for all this research that they're doing, but they often don't share the research findings with us. Have you noticed that?
That's right.
We're going to discuss some really amazing research findings dealing with breast health in general, and also potential causes of breast cancer that you might have not ever even thought about. Okay, and believe it or not, they're both related.
Amen.
So let's go ahead and start then by just a brief anatomy and physiology lesson. We talked about the colon, right? When was that? That was Tuesday, okay? And I'm just going to draw this right here. So we have the colon right here in the body. And that's it right here. Okay. Now, what lives inside the colon?
Boo-boo.
What's that?
Bacteria.
Bacteria.
Bacteria, yes. There are more bacteria living here than you have human cells.
Mm.
So in a sense, there's more of them than you.
Mm.
And if we're living a healthy lifestyle, these are going to be healthy bacteria. They're going to be health promoting bacteria. They work with us. They even call the colon, or the bacteria that colonize the colon, another organ.
Mm.
Okay? Guess what happens when we take antibiotics? It's like taking an organ out of our body, and we have to regrow it.
Mm.
Okay? It's serious. This is why they're realizing, wow, we shouldn't have just been giving antibiotics just for every little thing. We should be more selective, because the microbiome is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Microbiome meaning all the bacteria that are living there. Okay, now, what does the microbiome have to do? And these are the structures inside of the breast. We have the lobes and lobules and the ducts that lead here to the center. Believe it or not, scientists have found something really amazing, and that is this: that when they tested breast milk, they found bacteria with the same DNA, which means they're identical, okay, here as in here.
Mm.
Wow.
How'd that happen? Like lactobacilli. How did that get there? No, that's not supposed to be coming over here. How did it get there? And it's puzzling scientists. But they have identified, yes, this, through numerous studies, it actually happens. In fact, it's not just any bacteria, it is the bacteria from the mother's colon is going to her breast.
Mm.
How is it happening? Well, there's some ideas. Some people think, well, there's some bacteria, especially, well, they're all over the colon, but the immune system says, hey, there's an open door. I see you can do some benefit. Why don't you make your way over here to the breast? And we'll help you get in over there too.
Oh, mercy.
So that you can be there to get into the ducts of the breast that supply the milk to the baby, and we can make sure the baby gets good bacteria, gets probiotic bacteria in their food, okay? And that's important. That's very important, because the baby needs to have their microbiome organ built up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So another theory is this, which I think is actually more possible, is there are immune cells, maybe macrophages, right? They're the big immune cells. Could be neutrophils also. But they come over here and they say, okay, who'd like to go up to the breast? And they gather up, it's like a roundup, you know, a cattle roundup. And they round up some of the lactobacilli and the bifidobacteria. They say, okay, come on. And they make their way up here and they deposit in the ducts of the breast. the milk, the mammary ducts. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
We are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yeah.
You know that? We are fearfully and wonderfully made. Now, let me ask you a question. What happens if we get some bacteria? Let's say we have just bad bacteria, or bacteria that are used to breaking down dead, I guess you could call it putrefaction, right? Just breaking down proteins, right? We have primarily a meat-based diet, right, without much plants. Whatever we feed the colon, it is going to have bacteria that live off of that. So if we give it plenty of fiber, we can't digest it. One of the main purposes of fiber, you know what it is? Not only to cleanse the system, but also to come over here to the large intestine, and that's where these bacteria break that down for us. And they can actually feed the lining of the colon with what they break down. It's like they break the bread, you know? Just think of it like this. Fiber is like a big loaf of bread that your body can't digest, right? And so it gets down here to the colon, and these bacteria know just how to take that bread and break it apart, and they say, here, colon cells, you have some too. Here are my other friends over here, you have some, and I'll eat some as well. Isn't that amazing? Mm-hmm. So fiber is essential. But if we don't have fiber, guess what we're going to have? We're going to have whatever eats what we have there, which is going to be potentially things that will destroy protein and cause inflammation in the body. Why? Because they are the bacteria that are charged with destroying the dead animal. You think of like roadkill, right? Not a pleasant thought, but that could be what's happening in the colon. If we have a lot of meat and no fruits, vegetables, no fiber, because what the bacteria are going to be breaking down is all the protein there that is still there. We do break down some of it ourselves and use it. But if we have excess protein there, then you're going to have something called proteolytic fermentation or putrefaction. And that's the destruction of muscle tissue, of bodily tissue, you know, of those animals. Well, imagine if the roundup occurs and some of these bacteria are pulled up. And they pull the bacteria over here and they say, here you go ahead in there. What's going to happen? You know, 80% of all breast cancers originate in the duct of the breast. 80%. Ductal carcinoma. Now why? Why would that happen? I believe, and they don't know why, but I believe it has something to do with this. It has to do with gut health. So there is a huge connection, and it's a growing subject of research between gut health and breast health. In particular with breastfeeding, with the nutrition for the child, and then potentially leading into breast cancer risk. So it's huge. It's really an amazing topic. So what does that mean for us then? What does that mean? What do we need to focus on?
A lifestyle.
Lifestyle, what we eat, right? It's super important to have plenty of fiber in the diet. Now, that is one aspect right there. When we feed our bodies plenty of fiber that comes naturally in a plant-based diet, okay? Then we're going to have plenty of good bacteria growing here. Yes?
I just want to say that that's right, because I had endocrine carcinoma,
Okay.
but it was in the first stage, so you're right.
Yes.
Praise be to God.
Yes.
And that was a real early stage.
Yes.
What's the recommendation on fiber?
On fiber, I believe the American Dietetic Association recommends, I think it's 20-some grams of fiber a day, but it's very hard to obtain unless we're supplementing with fiber or we're eating plenty of plants. Because where's the fiber in milk? In dairy. There's no fiber there, right? There may be a few little strains of kind of soluble fiber. There is fiber in breast milk, in human breast milk. Did you know that? There's fiber there. It's in the form of sugars that you wouldn't necessarily think of them as fiber, but it's the form of sugars that the gut or the bacteria break down that are in the gut of the baby and feed and nourish the gut lining of that baby. So they're a prebiotic, so we term fiber a lot of times prebiotics. Have you heard of that before? Prebiotics? All right. And we need a combination of the two. So we have pre and probiotic.
So if you stick it to a plant-based diet, you shouldn't have any problem.
You shouldn't have any problem unless you're eating only refined foods.
Right.
You know, like Wonder Bread, it's from a plant, but you wonder where the fiber is, right? So, and the fiber has been taken out. So we want to try to eat whole foods. Whole foods means it's got the fiber still in it. It may be processed a little bit, may be cooked, may be prepared in such a way. And if you want to know how to make a really, really good plant-based meal that is whole food based but is delicious, you need to hang around with Sister Bethea a little bit more. Because I was able to have one of her meals and it was delicious. And it was all whole food. So praise the Lord for that. And it's important for us to have good tasting food, isn't it? Amen?
Yeah.
That's what our taste buds were there for, so that we enjoy our food. So if you don't know yet how to make a plant-based diet taste good, that is why Sister Bethea has her classes. And you're going to be blessed by that. But that being said, a whole food diet is going to have a lot of prebiotics. Prebiotics are fiber that certain bacteria like to eat. Okay? And when we have prebiotics coming into the intestines, especially when it makes its way into the colon, we're going to grow very healthy probiotic bacteria. And that's, even if you didn't take probiotic bacteria, guess what? Just having the prebiotic will call them there. It will say, hey, you were in that apple, now multiply out here because there's the prebiotics now in the colon. Because there are a lot of probiotic bacteria that you will swallow with your plant-based meal because it's there. It came from the soil, came from the plant. And even from the saliva. Human saliva has probiotic bacteria in it. Did you know that? There are probiotic bacteria living in human saliva. And if we chew our food well and we mix our saliva with our food, we are putting probiotic bacteria with the prebiotics that we're eating. And that is just a recipe for good colon health right there. Okay? Any questions on that? Isn't that amazing? It's so amazing. Okay, now let's talk a little bit more about these bacteria. So when the bacteria are functioning properly, and we have trillions of bacteria here, we'll just call it the microbiome. We've talked about estrogen being too high, right? And that causing problems. Guess what the microbiome does? It breaks down estrogen. It breaks down extra estrogen. Now, let's say that our microbiome is not functioning properly. Okay? It's not there. And guess what? The liver, remember what the liver does? It filters, right? The liver will take extra estrogen and it will put it in the bile, and then it gets secreted into the small intestine. Now, what could happen with that estrogen if it's not bound up with fiber or destroyed by these healthy bacteria? It gets reabsorbed. Okay? So, estrogen levels can go very high if our microbiome is non-existent. Okay? So if we're chronically, running to antibiotics or unhealthy diet, we're going to have high estrogen levels. That's just how it is. If we're not eating enough fiber, guess what? Eventually we're going to have high estrogen levels. And that is a risk factor for cancer, for breast cancer in this case. So, the liver, we talked about that already, didn't we?
Yes.
What can we do for liver health?
Same
What's one
thing.
remedy? I actually found this in the suggested research today when I was looking at this topic again. So, milk thistle actually increases the function of the liver and can increase the conversion of estrogen from the blood to being secreted into the bile. So more effectively getting rid of extra estrogen, okay? And then if we have enough fiber, or in the ideal situation, that can bind to estrogen at least until it gets it down to the colon where the bacteria can break it down and say, you don't need this extra estrogen. You don't need it anymore. We'll take care of it for you. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
You see how this is the extra organ down here? It's amazing. It helps with our immune function, helps with hormonal function, and also gut health in general. Okay, another consideration. Let's see. So, just thought of something, I just forgot about it. It was an important point too, but it'll come back to me. Anyway, let's just go on. So, we have this interworking of bacteria, the interplay of bacteria and the breast, right? What is another factor that could help to lower estrogen levels?
Not enough sleep.
Not enough sleep will always hurt the immune system. And the immune system is not functioning properly, you're more likely to have cancer growth actually continue without being detected. So that's a very good point. It's a comprehensive approach. It's a whole lifestyle approach. Now I remembered what I was going to say now because you said that. So estrogen levels can be decreased by things that we eat as well, believe it or not. You ever heard of soy isoflavones, or taking soy for postmenopausal symptoms or anything like that? Have you ever heard that soy is terrible for you and for men it will grow breast on you and all these things? That is not true. You can go to Japan and China where they eat this all the time, and the only breasts you'll see are on the sumo wrestlers because they're just eating too much, okay? They're not growing breasts. Soy does not grow breasts on men. Now, if it's all they ever ate and they were unhealthy, then yeah, it could contribute to it because soy does have estrogenic properties. But let me explain what that means. Can I erase this now? Okay. So in our bodies, both male and female, we have something called receptors for estrogen. Estrogen is a hormone. A hormone is a chemical messenger. It's sent by an organ to another tissue or another organ, and it says, you need to do this, right? What does estrogen do? Well, it provides a number of different functions that are important. Is it important for us to have some estrogen in the body? Yes. Of course. So we have the estrogen receptors. It brings about female body characteristics. Helps with many different functions within the body as well. But the cells that are acted upon by the estrogen do have these receptors. So if the hormone is, let's just erase this point here. If the hormone is coming along here, and there, let's say there's a receptor here for estrogen on the surface of this cell, right? And it's going to be much smaller. The estrogen can bind here, and it will cause a reaction or a response, okay? Now, where does soy come into play here? Well, soy has these isoflavones like genistein, and there's another one that starts with a D. I can't pronounce it offhand. But it also can come along here, and it can bind to this estrogen receptor, the soy. But guess what? It doesn't cause female body characteristics. It doesn't do the same thing. It's kind of like a key that you put into a lock that doesn't open the door fully. It just stays in there, okay? It may interact a little bit, but it doesn't really open the door, okay? Whereas the estrogen is like the key that opens that door over there, and it causes these kind of things here, and other beneficial things, though. But if you have too much estrogen, you'll have too much of the estrogen's effect in the body, right?
Mhm.
What does the liver do with extra estrogen?
Restores.
It gets rid of it, right? And the microbiome helps to get rid of it. So if you have a lot of these keys, the soy-based keys, so to speak, they'll come over here and they'll get in this receptor, and then the regular estrogen says, hey, I can't go there, I'm just going to float around then, because this receptor is blocked. I'll float around and, oh, I'm getting sucked in by the liver. Oh, I'm getting destroyed by the bacteria. Guess what? It can reduce estrogen levels if they're too high. Soy. Okay? And if you're postmenopausal and you don't have enough of estrogen there, it can interact mildly, so it gives you a little bit of that effect back that you're missing from the missing estrogen. So in a sense, it's very neutral in its effect. If you have too much estrogen, it helps. If you have too little estrogen, it helps. Okay? If you're a male, don't worry. It's not going to mess with you. Okay? It's not going to be a problem. So it's really an amazing possibility here. And guess what else? Genistein, this soy isoflavone, that's also a phytoestrogen, which is the plant-based form of this estrogen that, remember, it mildly interacts with the estrogen receptor. It also is anti-cancer, strongly anti-cancer. And you can also get it from the red clover that we're going to make tomorrow. We make a little red clover tea. So let me just briefly give a little diagram of this. So let's say that we have a cancer, right? And this is a tumor-based cancer. What is a tumor made up of? Is it just one big cell? It's many. Many cancer cells that are growing very rapidly. And usually they're growing faster than the surrounding tissue, and that's why you have this abnormally large growth there. Okay? Cancer also usually will have a sheath around it, or at least it's in a compartment, so it'll be kind of encaged or enclosed. Now what happens when this gets so big and you have some of the cancer cells escaping?
Spread.
What's that called? Metastasis, right? And this is why you can have breast cancer that turns into liver cancer, because the breast cancer cells break loose and they go right in the bloodstream down to the liver, and then they start their own colonies there. Okay, guess what genistein does? It's been scientifically shown. It actually puts some type of a coating on these cells, makes them sticky, so that, and by the way, these are riding through the bloodstream, right? Okay. So that they'll stick and they won't actually go very far. They might not even, and by the way, a sign of a normal cell is their cohesion. Okay, cancer cells are not cohesive when they're in their more advanced stage. That's why it's like a bean bag. You open it up and they just split. They go everywhere. Why? Because there's certain physiologic things going on, but they are primed to move and to start their own colonies. Okay? So what the genistein does is it makes them more sticky and more cohesive again. So you're much less likely to have metastasis utilizing genistein because they're sticking together more. Okay? Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So not only do you have the mild estrogen effects where it will block extra estrogen and allow the liver to get rid of it and the healthy bacteria to destroy it if all things are working correctly, but you also have potential for stopping metastasis of cancer that's already growing. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And soy gets a really bad reputation. I don't know why. I think it has something to do with hamburgers. American Cattlemen's Association does not like soy because you can make all kind of very inexpensive, healthy, plant-based foods with soy. Now, that being said, there are a lot of unhealthy plant-based foods that are made with soy. They're made with soy isolate. They take all the genistein out and all the good stuff out, all the fiber out, and they just give you, it's like eating Wonder Bread and saying, you know, wheat is bad because Wonder Bread is bad. No, it's not necessarily the case. It's that that's just a very refined nutrient and it doesn't have all the things to help it be absorbed and utilized in the body. So soy in and of itself is not a bad food. It's only when we refine it and we take out the fiber and take out the nutrients, take out the genistein, which is so helpful here, then yeah, it could cause problems. But we're not recommending that. So, pretty amazing. So, the compound genistein found in soy and what else? Red clover. Right, red clover. All right.
Can you spell that?
Yes, red, R-E-D.
No,
Genistein, G-E, I'm probably misspelling it. G-E-N-E-S-T-E-I-N, I believe. Mm-hmm. So, red clover and genistein. And if you want to get the highest amount of genistein in soy, you actually get it from the soy sprouts. So, if you like to sprout your own soybeans and make soy sprouts, or soy sprouts are one of the cheapest type of sprouts that you can buy. And they're very high in this genistein. So, and they're high in fiber as well. So that is a good way of using soybeans. If you just have a bunch of organic soybeans and let's say you don't want to cook them and they're raw and you can sprout them, or they're dried, they're raw, you can sprout them, then you could, instead of soaking them and cooking them like a bean, you could sprout them and eat them as a green. Okay? And they're going to have high amounts of that genistein. Also with the red clover, you can buy red clover seeds and you can sprout them and they have a higher concentration of genistein than the plant itself as well. But, sprouting it's an art in and of itself. You just have to kind of get used to doing it. For those of you who might be a little bit wary of sprouting, you can eat the soy, of course, and you can also get red clover tea, which we're going to have tomorrow. That they just basically have the clover flowers, and they go out and harvest them. It's not very expensive. If you wanted to grow it in your own backyard and just send your children out to harvest. Give them something to do out in the great outdoors. But it's a good tasting tea also. Has a nice flowery type, fragrant taste. So it's pretty good. It's a mild tea, but it is potentially very beneficial. I was sharing the other day about a gentleman who's very popular, very well known in medical circles and even political circles now. Ben Carson. You've heard of him?
Yes.
Okay. He was the doctor that separated the Siamese twins, I think, on a number of occasions. Author of Gifted Hands. So anyway, he was in medical school. He tells a story about a time in which he was doing experiments on laboratory animals, on mice. And what they had to do was to inject the mice with it was a cell line, a cancer cell line. So they actually took cancer cells. And these cells will grow in any organism. And so they were going to inject it into the rat, but he accidentally poked his finger and injected it into his finger. I guess while he was holding on to the rat. And he realized, uh-oh, what am I going to do? And sure enough, within, I guess, a couple of days or even weeks, he started to see a growth on his finger. Then he felt something in his throat and realized that cancer was growing all throughout his body. The doctors didn't know what to do because I guess they'd never had anyone inject themselves with this experimental cancer cell line. And so Ben Carson relates a story. He said, I went with my wife to a book called Back to Eden by Jethro Kloss. And we read in there, we found that red clover flowers could be helpful for taking care of these types of cancer. So I was drinking it by the gallon. Guess what? I have no cancer even until today. Wow. So it totally caused it to go into remission. That's pretty amazing. Yeah. So we see the power of these natural remedies. And it's such a shame that we don't hear more about this. It really is. What we do hear about is chemo, surgery, and radiation.
There you go.
As if those were the only options.
That's right.
But we see there are stories of people that have used these other things to good effect. I think at the very least we should try these things first, and if they work, we say no thank you. I don't need that anymore. Like Ben Carson did, you know. I mean, I'm sure he could have been all irradiated and all cut up with trying to remove those tumors, but he said, I'm going to try this first, and guess what? God blessed.
Amen.
And I think God has a lot of blessings for all of us if we would take hold of these natural things.
Okay, and
Yes.
they also have these pills, they try to get me to take them. You take them for 5 years, and you take them every day.
Yes.
And I was like,
Mhm.
no, I'm not doing that. Because when you read up on it, it says it can cause cancer. I was like, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's true. A lot of medications will have side effects that sometimes are even worse if you do get the side effects, worse than the actual issue you're trying to treat. So the nice thing about natural remedies is they're good for everything, you know, the broad spectrum. So for instance, like the orange peel, which we're gonna make some orange peel tea in just a moment. We're gonna do beets also tonight. Okay, so we'll do beets as well. So the orange peel is helpful to a large number of things. And we're not eating the peel, we're gonna make tea, we're gonna extract something from the orange peel. I'm gonna show you real quick the benefits of orange peel. And when you think of orange peel, what do you usually think? Good, food, yummy.
Yes.
Do you? Or do you think, oh, that's trash, right? You kind of want to throw it away. I'll tell you my first experience with orange peel as a medicine. We lived up in Idaho, and we were living there for about a year, and it was winter time, and there was snow all over the ground. It gets very cold up there, and I took the trash out of my trash bin in the kitchen, and my children had been eating those little mandarins, you know, the cuties.
Yes.
There are lots of cutie peels in the trash bag. And so I take it, and I don't want to put my shoes on and everything and go out there and trudge around the snow. So I just put it right next to our door thinking, you know, nothing's going to come over here. It's all frozen. No raccoons are going to come up here and bother it. I'll take it out in a few hours. Well, I went back over to help my wife do something, and about an hour or two later, I noticed there was a little animal sitting out about 10 yards away from me from my window, and it was a squirrel. And I noticed he had something orange in his mouth, you know, and his little hands eating them. And I look out, like, what does he have? This is, you know, there's nothing orange in nature out there. It's all brown, you know, and snow covered, you know. And I looked closely, and I realized he had an orange peel. He had one of those little mandarin peels, and he was eating it. So I thought, oh, he got into the trash, he made a mess, and sure enough, he did. He got all the orange peel he could get, and he pulled it out, and he was over there eating it. So I thought, okay, I'll fix you. I gathered up the trash, got it, and put it in our bin, which is even somewhat bear resistant. It was very strong, very durable, very thick plastic. I thought, okay, this is the end of this. Well, anyway, about 2 hours later, I look back out there, and here's a squirrel again, eating another peel. Thinking, how did he get it? This is impossible. I go out there, he had eaten a hole through the trash can to get more orange peel. And he was eating, and he must have taken a long time, because you could see his little bite marks all over. He bored a hole through that, and he was eating the orange peel. Okay? Guess what? Orange peel is powerful medicine for rodents. You know what it does? It's actually almost like a Valium for them. It decreases all their anxieties. They have no fear, no cares. And that little mouse was out there, or rodent was out there in the snow, just nibbling away at that orange peel. And when his concerns started to come back, he thought, I need some more of that good stuff. And he went over and ate a hole through my trash can to get more. Well, guess what? Humans can have the same effect. It decreases our anxieties as well. It's that we don't usually eat as much as rodents would. So it's more of a mild effect. But it's anti-anxiety. Other studies have found it's anti-cancer. It's helpful with skin cancer, actually 3 types of skin cancer. The squamous cell, basal cell, and even malignant melanoma. It's been found to help. Almost any type of other cancer, if you look at the research, it says, yes, this stuff right here helps. Even breast cancer. There have been a number of studies. In fact, one study found that one lady actually had basically the tumor went away.
Wow.
She had breast cancer, and it was end stage. They thought, she's got nothing to lose, we'll try it. And guess what? It helped. So there's a lot of potential here, and there's a compound in the orange peel that specifically is the real beneficial compound. It's also found in grapefruit peel. It's also found in, let's see, mandarin peel, like the squirrel found out, and maybe tangerine, I can't remember, but those it's found in very high quantities. And it's known as D-limonene, Limonene. So D-limonene. Now, where does the D-limonene come from? It does not come from the fruit part of the citrus. It comes from the peel of the citrus. It's an oil that is in the peel itself. And the peel is the thing that we usually throw away, right?
Right.
My first experience with, besides that rat, or the squirrel, in learning a little bit more about orange peel's effectiveness or grapefruit peel's effectiveness was a study I found on rheumatoid arthritis and even osteoarthritis. It found that people living in Arizona that had their own grapefruit trees and they would eat the peel with the grapefruit had much less incidence of osteoarthritis. They also found that when giving basically an extract of orange peel to people with rheumatoid arthritis, it reduced rheumatoid factor, which is an indicator of severity of rheumatoid arthritis. So you see, it's beneficial for a whole spectrum of things, even potentially brain health as well. So natural remedies, they're good for everything, right?
Right.
Except some things, garlic is not good for social use, social meetups. But garlic is good for just about every other part of the body, and anything you would need to decrease, like cholesterol, high blood pressure, garlic is there, right? Garlic is another thing that's also beneficial for cancer. They've done numerous studies on garlic and the tissue repair properties that garlic initiates, helps to prevent mutations from occurring. It helps in detoxification, it helps in the immune system in many ways. And that's just one thing. But you look at the whole plant kingdom and you'll find anti-cancer properties in just about everything you find outside in nature. It's amazing. It's almost as if God doesn't want us to get cancer. Because in Genesis 1:29 through 18, what did he tell us to eat? Every fruit, right? And
Grain.
3:18, grain, nuts, seeds, and the vegetables too, right? Genesis 3:18, the vegetables were included there specifically. So he said, these are for our food. These are for our food. And we know that everything God does, he does well.
Right.
How do we know that? Because after every day of creation, what did God say? It is good, right? It is good. And so when he looked at the vegetable kingdom and the plant kingdom and the seeds and the nuts and the grains and all this, he said, that's good. And it's for them. It's for all of us. He thought of you when he was making those things. You know that?
Yeah.
He thought of, and he even thought of our potential need in sickness and disease as well. That's why he put all those wonderful properties in there.
Brother, I can ask a question.
Yes.
If we just want a regular orange, we
Yes.
just need to wash it off really good
Yes.
and then just get the peel out.
Yes. Now, I will tell you, I've done it. I've tried to get this in all different varieties of things. Grapefruit peel is the worst. Don't even try that. Orange peel, second worst. Best thing is if you eat the mandarin. If you get organic mandarins, it's actually nice. They're very light, thin skins, But if you want to eat orange peel, you can't. It just doesn't. It seems like you shouldn't be eating it. It's thick. It doesn't taste good. It's bitter. Yeah. Now here's one thing you could do. You could, if you're into juicing, you could slice or quarter the orange and juice the orange with the orange peel. And then you're going to get the benefits of the D-limonene there in your orange juice. You could do that as well. It is gonna taste a little bitter, and the de-lemoning will be floating on the top, because it's the oil. It'll float on the top of your drink. And you'll notice, well, this is kind of bitter at first, but it's fine.
What about the kumquat? You eat the whole thing?
Those are excellent. Also good sources of de-lemoning. Yes, in fact, be careful with kumquats. If you eat too many, you might have a Valium-like experience.
Oh, really?
Yes, if you eat a whole quart, you might just be sitting there, everything is so good. I'm serious.
I have to go back to cold
What
foods
do you
again.
say?
Kumquat.
Wait,
What is
wait,
that?
I've never
Yeah,
heard
you
of
eat,
it.
they're like tiny little oranges. And they're designed for you to eat the whole thing.
How do you spell that?
Kumquat, is it Kumquat?
That's what it is.
I think so.
Say it again.
Kumquat. It's like the tiny little oranges
Oh,
that
okay.
you can buy. You're supposed to just pop in your mouth and eat the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
They're good. It's just hard to find them. They're seasonal.
Kumquat.
But
You said what they're doing, what you said.
they are a very good they're a very good source of de-lemoning, just like the orange peel. But they help decrease anxiety.
Okay.
They help fight cancer. Anything that de-lemoning does, the kumquat's going to be helpful because it has that compound in it.
And then you said it makes you feel real good. And you
It does.
sing a song.
Well, you will be at peace. I'll just say that.
Okay.
I just love them.
Yes.
They get like the whole food.
Yeah, well, the last ones I got was at Whole Foods.
Yeah, you can find them Whole Foods or a lot of health food stores. You can even talk to your grocer. If you have a grocer, say, listen, if you buy kumquats, I will be your best customer, okay? And because they can order stuff. They have all this whole list of produce they can order. And if they know you're gonna order, you're gonna be a consistent customer, you might just have it in your local grocery store. So that's an option as well, when it's in season. Another thing you can do is the clementines, the little mandarins, you can take them and cut them into slices, and then you can put them on a tray and freeze them. And it tastes really good. It's like little popsicles, and you eat them. You need to put wax paper in between so you can just peel it off and you eat it. It tastes really good. Some people dry them, and that's good too. It's like little mandarin chips, and you still get the benefit of the oil because a lot of it is there. If you're just dehydrating it on a low temperature, the oil is still there in that little ring. Just like here, the oil is still here in this orange peel. Even though you do lose some of it, it's still stuck in there. So that is an option as well. Any questions on de-lemoning? Or you want to try some?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and make the tea here. I also have stevia because that'll add some sweetness to it. Let me go ahead and make this. Now this stevia is not your normal typical stevia. This is actually just the leaf. If you buy stevia at the store, it's an extract, and sometimes they put sugar with it. Or they put, what's that one that's recently gotten into the headlines as causing heart issues? It's not NutraSweet, even though that's not a good one. What's the? It's a sugar, erythritol. Erythritol. Yeah. So they'll put erythritol in with the stevia because erythritol is cheaper. Stevia is more expensive. Stevia, in and of itself, it's just a plant. It's not real sugar. It just has a taste that tastes like sugar. So you're not getting any effect from sugar from it, which is kind of nice if you put a little bit with your tea. You know, it helps to give it a little bit of sweetness. But there's no sugar in it at all. And it's not artificial. It's natural. So we'll put a little
it in there. You'll put it in there after you make the tea.
We'll brew it with it. You prefer it without it, right? Some people don't like the stevia taste. So what we can do is we can brew the orange peel first, and then we can take some out, and then we can add the stevia.
Okay. Oh, we're gonna do the pine needle, you know, we're supposed to do the pine needle too.
We will have to do that tomorrow when we do the other one, I
Okay.
think. Because I was not able to go out in the rain and find the white pine.
Okay.
But I think there might be some growing over here.
Yeah, we got some last time.
Yeah.
And we took it and put it in the house, and it's
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, we put it in the house, and everything was just wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And it stayed like that for a while too.
Yeah.
The pine
Mhm.
leaves in it.
Mhm.
And we got them out here, we went out looking for them, and we had some here right here on the property.
Yep.
So, we took some home,
Mhm.
and it's very relaxing.
Mhm.
They have it in the house, or have it in the room, you know, and, it's very relaxing.
Very helpful. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and wash my hands, and then I'll come back and we'll brew some orange peel tea. And later with the tea.
Yeah, okay. And then we'll have, then we'll have the big after that.
I think I used
What's that?
We have three.
Yeah.
Okay, so while I'm brewing this tea, I want to ask you one more question, because this is really important. I don't want you to think that the supplements alone are really all that you need to really promote risk reduction for breast cancer. How does exercise help reduce breast cancer risk? What are your thoughts?
The more you get, the better off you are.
Okay, and how specifically? Give me a few things.
Well, I find it helps lower the blood pressure, it helps lower my blood sugar.
Cholesterol.
Okay,
It's good for your
Relaxing.
Yeah.
good for the circulation.
Good for stress.
Detoxification. Okay, definitely. All these things are very important and very helpful. There's another one that a lot of people don't realize, and that is that exercise actually increases for females, it increases progesterone levels. Progesterone is a hormone that is often out of balance with estrogen. And especially in the onset of these cancers, we have issues with estrogen dominance, or too much estrogen and not enough progesterone. They have these studies that look at mice that are swimming. And they found that when mice were swimming, female mice, their lactic acid levels increase, or their blood lactate levels increase. They also noticed that when male rats were swimming, their blood lactate levels were increasing. But guess what they also found? Correspondingly with the lactate increase was for the females increase in progesterone, and for the males increase in testosterone. So if we want to have optimal hormones, it's not just about getting rid of excess estrogen, or even for the males, remember we talked about this too, not even just about taking the peppermint tea or the spearmint tea to lower testosterone levels if they're too high, or the DHT in specific that can lead to issues with the prostate and even hair loss. We also need to regulate them through activity, okay? So exercise is essential. Not only will it help with the circulation of the good things that we're putting into the body, not only will it stimulate the immune system, but also will help normalize the hormones. So it's not, I would say even the good things like this are definitely not a substitute for exercise. If you have to choose anything, choose even exercise over these things, because exercise is so helpful for hormone balance. It's really key. Okay? All right, that's just my little spiel on exercise. I love exercising.
I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
What kind of stevia do you get?
Okay, this right here is
It's like the bags at Walmart,
Organic.
Aldi's and stuff, that probably has sugar in it.
Yeah, it does. It usually will have some type of a sugar in it. This is not gonna look like what you get at Walmart, right? Have you ever seen that at Walmart? No. You'll see stevia extract mixed with, I can give you a little bit of this. You'll
At
see.
Walmart, it looks like white sugar.
Exactly, because it's stevia extract mixed with some other type of sweetener. That's what it looks like right there. So you can see that is just a plant. That's what stevia actually looks like. It's cut up.
That's pretty.
Yep. Mhm.
Would you make a list of the things that you know, the teas where we
Mhm.
can get them? Please?
Sure,
I mean,
definitely.
when you get a chance,
Mhm.
sometime this week.
A good rule of thumb is there are pretty much 3 major companies that sell bulk herbs. This is Star West, it's one of my favorite. It's called Star West Botanicals. Another is Frontier, and I'm not sure, maybe it's just Frontier Herbs, something like that. And the other is if you want extracts of these things that are in bulk, so it would be like a more healthy stevia extract, or we have used the salt palmetto extract, I believe was the one we had, or no, it was the milk thistle extract.
Okay.
That is by bulksupplements.com. So bulksupplements.com. I like to buy my herbs and things in bulk because you save so much money. It's tremendous savings when you buy it in bulk like this. I think this
Keep it
costs.
in a bag like that, you could just-
You can, but you will want to get the air out and then seal it. You could also keep it in an airtight jar.
Okay.
Sometimes what I'll do is I'll do both. I'll get the air out of it. And then I'll put it in a jar also.
What was that last one you said? You said both?
Bulksupplements.com. Bulksupplements.com.
I mean, these extracts like that, normally how long do they last?
That's a good question. I'm sure there's a, there should be an expiration date on this. But usually 2 years. You'll know if it starts to smell different. I have some herbs that have been in my herb shelf for probably 3 years, and I probably won't use them anymore after that. But they're probably still helpful. Just like anything, it's going to start to go rancid.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you want to keep them longer, keep it in the freezer. You can do that. You could put this whole bag in the freezer and it'd be good for a long time. It prevents the oxidation from happening. So, yes. Oh yeah. Now I wouldn't suggest eating it, but you can. I mean, you can have a little taste of it.
I just did, it killed me.
Yeah.
I wanna say that,
He said he wouldn't suggest eating it.
I mean, you can. It's just like eating the leaf. If you want to do. Anyone else?
I wanna,
Would you all like to try some?
you just eat it.
Well, you can. Yeah, it will be sweet, but it's not necessarily something that is made just to eat.
You put it in your tea, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh, wow.
Would you all like some?
Yes, please.
Don't even have that. Get hungry.
Yeah, definitely could.
You tried it.
Ain't it good?
It's got a sweet taste.
And,
It's got a
um,
sweet taste.
It's got that.
Oh, is it?
That is.
Okay.
You ever taste?
Well, it's so good. Yeah.
It's got that.
So there's no sugar in that. It just tastes sweet. That's what stevia is. Stevia has a natural sweet taste to it.
Strain it.
So we can put
After
this in
you
our
kind of boil it.
You can. Now, what I would do is I would brew it with the tea,
Okay.
and then you take out the leaf, you know. So, But the interesting thing about stevia is it's been found to have good effect against Lyme's disease. In fact, you'll see people up in Maine and New Hampshire and places where Lyme's is just really endemic. They will be taking stevia extract as a supplement because it's helpful somehow in Lyme's disease. So it has its own medicinal properties. But the stevia you find at Walmart, there's probably no medicinal properties in it because it's so refined and then it's filled with all these other sugars. Okay, so while we wait for the orange peel tea, does anyone have any other questions? Any questions at all about any of the subject matter from
I'm
today?
gonna give you one on lung cancer
Okay.
last night.
Go ahead.
Okay. Now what about flaxseed? Does flaxseed help?
That's a good question, do it?
Okay. How does flaxseed help? What's in flaxseed?
I thought you said black seed.
But flaxseed is good too.
Is it?
Flaxseed oil is excellent.
For what?
It's black sesame seeds. Mhm.
Is it good to take?
The black seed oil?
Yeah, the black seed oil.
I've heard it's very good. The thing about it is, there are beneficial seeds and plants in every continent. Black seed oil is more like, from my knowledge, more Middle Eastern. You know, they use it a lot in Muslim countries. In fact, if you type in the internet and you look at all the research on black seed oil, most of it's coming from Lebanon and Iran and places like that, where they use it so much. They're like, hey, this works, let's test it out in the research and see if we can quantify this. But there are other things that you can take, like just sesame seed. Regular sesame seed is helpful. It's very helpful. It's anti-inflammatory, but flaxseed is helpful. It's anti-inflammatory. You can grow it in North America, so it's a native seed. And it's high in omega-3 fatty acids. Anyone heard of that before?
Yes.
Okay. What are omega-3 acids good for? What have you heard before? Anyone? Would you like to know?
Yes.
All right. Very good. Okay. So I'm going to teach you something that if you rehearse this back to your doctor, they'll be amazed that you know about this. Okay? It's called the arachidonic acid pathway. Okay? It starts over here in the body with omega-6. Omega-6 is the originator of inflammation, of most inflammation in the body. Did you know that? It is.
Yep.
It is the storage unit for, it's like the gas tank for inflammation. Doesn't mean you will have it, but if you press on the gas, you'll use it. So from there, it flows to two different things. One is I think it is the arachidonic acid pathway. The other one is the leukotriene synthesis. So it can go to the lungs and cause issues. Okay, and then you can go to prostaglandins here. Okay, prostaglandins like prostaglandin E2 or different various prostaglandins. They're what you take aspirin and Tylenol to alleviate, right? Your aches and pains, your inflammation. The problem with that is it only blocks this. It only blocks this. So what happens? You take Tylenol or you take ibuprofen, and you actually have more risk of lung inflammation because you still have the pathway and you still have the potential for inflammation here. So if you have a lot of inflammation, what's the first step? Decrease the amount of omega-6s in your diet. I've noticed that some people, get rid of their arthritis or their chronic aches and pains just by stopping cooking oils that are high in omega-6. They have no more arthritis. Why? Because they don't have any more fuel to fuel the inflammatory pathway. Okay?
What kind of oil, I mean, what, omega-6, what oil is it in?
It's in most of your cooking oils. Yeah, it is. There are some oils that are lower in omega-6. You can, if you go on Google and type in what oils are low in omega-6, then you'll find a list of them. There are some that are more healthy than others. But let's go back over here. Your body will have omega-6 to utilize, so you can still get some inflammation, even if you don't eat very much. But you're reducing at least the reservoir, the amount in the reservoir. And for some people, it actually does get rid of their inflammation. Okay, well, let's say you do have some inflammation, and you want to be able to stop it. Well, turmeric stops it here and stops it here. Okay? So you stop it all with turmeric. It's a COX-1 and COX-2 inhibitor is what it's called. Ginger does the same thing. Okay? But let's say you still have some that slips through here, and it starts to go down here, and it affects the body. So you have inflammation. Right? What can you do here? Well, here's where flaxseed and omega-3 comes into play. Because omega-3 actually takes this inflammation and it turns it into anti-inflammation. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
So it actually turns it in, it takes something that's inflammatory and makes it anti-inflammatory. That's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's why having adequate levels of omega-3 fatty acids, which you get from flax seeds and chia seeds, is so helpful in reducing overall inflammation.
Can you eat it every day, Brother Ron?
I would think so. And especially for females. For males, you don't want to have too much flaxseed because it could potentially interfere with hormone balance. Depending on who you talk to about that, they might have different opinions on that. But probably no more than a tablespoon is really necessary for males every day of flaxseed. If you have more and you don't have any problems, don't worry about it. But it has the potential to increase estrogen levels, potentially. So if you don't care about that, then that's not a big deal. But it's probably not even a real big concern. Most people will not eat over a tablespoon of flax, you know. So
Flax also helps lower blood pressure too.
it does, yes. And partly because of its anti-inflammatory action. Because inflammation will wreak havoc on the arteries and could even smell something funny. Not my orange peel tea, at least. Okay, so yeah, it's helpful in a lot of ways, but basically you have a number of targets you could take. You could, and ideally, we need a well-rounded approach, you know. So we could limit cooking oils. We could take turmeric and ginger when necessary. We could utilize the flax meal, and guess what? We could potentially greatly reduce our inflammation in the body by doing these things. And then exercising also, following a plant-based diet, all these things could greatly decrease the severity of inflammation. I have a relative who had terrible osteoarthritis, and every morning she would go to the kitchen and she would grab a bottle of pills and she would open it, she would take her pills, and then she would have to peel her fingers off because they were in such pain, one by one. Guess what? She just stopped eating meat and didn't have any problems anymore. Just that. Guess what meat puts into the system?
Inflammation.
Why? Because meat has arachidonic acid in it. So you don't even need the omega-6. It has, so arachidonic acid right here you're just skipping that and you're putting it right in there. Now, if we eat a lot of omega-6 and the arachidonic acid, it's gonna just compound it and make it a lot worse. So a plant-based diet, or at least like a fruit fast or a veggie fast, or even if you want to do some juicing for a short time, you could greatly reduce the amount of inflammation in your body because you're taking care of this pathway.
What about the olive oil? It has they have an olive oil that you can fry with.
Yes.
Is that safe?
Well, there are omega-6s in olive oil, but I will say this, frying anything, any type of oil, even if it won't necessarily go rancid all at once, it's still going to damage the oil, and it's going to damage the food too. It creates carcinogens and toxins in the food because frying, a lot of people don't realize, it's much hotter. It's like, what, 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit when you fry something, compared to boiling, which is, you know, maybe you get up to 190 degrees Fahrenheit. So it could cause some changes in the chemical composition of the food. So ideally we want to do less frying and more baking and boiling. That's going to be healthier. But that being said, if you're looking to use an oil to fry, then definitely want to use one of the higher heat varieties, like the coconut oil and that kind of thing. But even that, I really try to stay away from it because of the potential damage to the food and to the oil itself, you know. Because rancid oil is very inflammatory. It doesn't matter, even if it's a good oil, if it's gone rancid because of heat or because of light exposure or exposure to air or just gotten old, it's aged, then it becomes toxic and becomes an irritant. Even essential oils that have become old, that have become rancid, become irritants. They lose the medicinal value. So
Olive oil is not good for you?
Well, the Bible says it's good, right?
Okay.
It's not
If you read the
cooked.
Spirit of Prophecy,
It's not heated.
yeah, it's not heated. It's the oil in the olive, right? It's pressed, right?
Okay.
And there are plenty of verses in the Bible talking about the oil of gladness, you know, these types of things. It's seen as more of a delicacy in the Bible. It's not something we're going to eat every day, and it's very expensive too.
Yes.
So if you're going to have it, of course, and honestly, personally, I moved away from it. But if you're going to have it, you want to use it in moderation, you know. But here's one thing to consider. It also is a very good remedy, olive oil, because there are actually a couple letters that Ellen White wrote to some people talking about olive oil. One was the oil of the olive was good for dyspepsia, for the stomach. Another one, she recommended taking the oil of the olive and putting some activated charcoal in it and mixing up and taking that for the stomach. It coats the stomach, it's helpful, it's healing. But for me, I don't make it a staple of my diet, and I don't think I need to. As long as we're eating a balanced diet, we're getting healthy fats from other things, you know.
Amen.
And the whole foods will have the healthy fats in them.
Okay.
When we refine the foods, like Wonder Bread doesn't have any oils in it, you know. But the natural, you know, the whole grain will actually have some of that healthy fat still in it. So that's an option. Yes.
What do you think of cloves?
Of cloves? Well, they're wonderful for driving out intestinal parasites.
Oh.
And also, you can put it on a toothache. Just take a whole clove and put it on a toothache, and it helps. It's a very, very harsh oil, though. So I don't know if it's necessarily the best for internal use, because, you know, if you put a drop of clove oil in your mouth, it burns, you know, it stings.
Yeah.
But that being said, oregano oil does too. So there may be a case for the use of it as a medicine, right? If you're trying to detoxify, and it does expel worms. It's one, if you look at a lot of detox recipes, it is one of the things you always see in there for getting rid of parasites. Because the parasites don't like it. They're like, this is too hot. We gotta leave. So, but I don't put it in my food. I don't cook with it. I just never really developed the habit of doing that.
Well, what about coconut oil? Some people say it's good, and some people say it's not.
Yes. Who says it's not?
Well, Barbara O'Neill says it's excellent,
Okay, and who says it's good?
but who's that doctor that says it ain't good? Is it Medley or?
I think Dr. Nedley or, let's see,
It's a fruit, say it's not good. It's a saturated fat.
Neil Bernard.
Neil Bernard.
Yes. So you have two different opinions, and they're warring against each other. I just stay out of it, honestly, because I don't really need it. You know, if you want coconut, you can get coconut milk, and you can cook with that, and it adds the coconut fat in an emulsified natural form that's healthier, easier to absorb. So, and I don't see anyone complaining about coconut milk, so I think I'm safe with that. But you will find people that will say, yeah, any oil is toxic, you know, stay away from it. And there is some argument there. But then you have other people that say, no, olive oil is the best thing, you should eat it every day, you know, this and that. So I try to stay moderate in these things, and I look at all the evidence, and honestly, there are a lot of ways of making food taste good and giving a fullness and a richness to the food naturally that don't require oil.
Wow.
And Sister Bethea, I know you know how to do this because I've tasted your food. So I think, you know, learning different ways of cooking without having to fry things and put so much oil, you're going to actually get a healthier product.
When you bake it, it's gonna be better.
Yes.
You won't have to work by having oil to, you know, to
Exactly.
make your food taste better.
Exactly. Yep. Like oven fries, if you're and I'm a believer also in making incremental changes. You know, if you can't right now, you feel like you can't do without fries. Well, don't fry them in the deep fryer. Do oven fries. You know.
Amen.
And you're going to cut out a lot of extra calories by doing that, and it's not going to be so damaged by that 1,000-degree temperature that's coming in contact. You know, potatoes in particular. If we put potatoes in a deep fryer, you know what it causes? Formation of a cancerous compound called acrylamide, which the California government actually puts labels on things with acrylamide now. So this could cause cancer. This could cause cancer. So oven fries are going to produce less of that because it's not cooked at such a high temperature.
What about the oven, the air fryer?
Yeah, that's what I was
Okay,
gonna ask.
air fryer, I don't think that's not going to be 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's hot, but air fryer is probably, it's not really frying, you know, it's just baking it in a hot way, in a fast way. It has probably a fan that blows, more like a convection oven that's just turning over the air a lot so much that it's causing more of a crispness to the, you know, to whatever it is you're cooking. But it's not really frying.
You're not using no oil.
Exactly. So it's probably a better option as well, the air frying type. So,
Well, I had a couple of questions that
sure.
some people asked, so I don't know, I don't get too off topic, but I had someone ask, what could possibly be an issue with a 90-year-old that has hands that shake real bad and it's painful and keeps them up at night? A female.
Okay.
I mean, that's just...
Well, that's a very good question. Now, I can't make a specific diagnosis, of course, because I don't have a medical license, and also because there's so many other variables. But if we're looking at tremors in general, there are a number of things that can cause that. They could be enzymes or neurotransmitter imbalances in the brain. It could be muscle fatigue even. Could even be blood sugar issues that can cause that. So I would say follow that up with a medical practitioner if you really want to get a diagnosis. But there are natural things that can help with muscle spasms, like magnesium. You know, you can even get magnesium in a spray, and you can rub that. It's magnesium salt. You rub it on your arms, It doesn't feel the best, but it does help with muscle spasms. It feels a little irritating to the skin. Or just taking a magnesium supplement could help with relaxation of the muscles. In terms of neurotransmitters in the brain, they've actually found things like essential oils from orange peel, or especially from the pine, can help with balancing neurotransmitter levels. So this is something that's still under research, but if they're wanting to do some simple things just to see if they could be helpful without actually, I'm not going to give a diagnosis or anything, but taking some pine needles and putting it in a pot and boiling it and letting that pine essential oil come out, and that has a calming effect on the body, on the brain, and it helps with the neurotransmitter enzymes and the breakdown and turnover of neurotransmitters in the brain. So that could be potentially helpful, and we still don't know the effect of things like Roundup on brain neurotransmitters, because what we do know is it inhibits, I think it's acetylcholine, which is the neurotransmitter that affects where the nerve comes into the muscle and tells it to move. And so if we interfere with that, we could potentially have tremors or something like that. So Roundup is a direct blocker, or it interferes with that neurotransmitter. So all these things could come into play. But I think it comes down to a well-rounded approach. But I would say if they have concern, to talk with their physician and see if they can run some tests, because that could potentially be a number of things, including even neurodegenerative diseases that might need more attention.
Let us do this, because I see my lady right here getting ready to go home, because she's staying in Lexington. So we want to get through these remedies right quick, and then we can go with the question. We missed it last night, we don't want to miss it tonight. So we're going to talk about beets very shortly. Beets is what the Lord has showed me, our blood that He's given us naturally. Lord give us everything that we need naturally. And the world that we're living in now, with everybody giving blood, it's not like it used to be. People go sell their what is that they selling now?
Plasma
And all this stuff. And we don't know really what we're getting. And as Ron has been talking, and as the Lord has been showing us that we need to stick more to what God has given us. A lot of times we don't want the beets because we say, oh, they don't have a taste, they don't do this. We need to go ask the Lord to help change our taste for it. Because that's what He had to do for me. I said, Lord, I know I might not like this food, but I don't want to do my will. I want to do your will, so that you can use me to minister to others. So that's the first thing you have to do, that taste for it. And then when you come and start eating these things at the class, you'll be surprised. Because you want to learn, you want to know, you want to do. And our will got to, give our will to Him. So these beets are what we use in the house for our blood, anemia and all those things. So what I'm going to do is blend some of this, and we're going to have a drink with this. And then these are the ones that I told you that the grandchildren love, the great-grandchildren love. They think gummy bears. And they are very sweet. So what we're going to do, we're going to pass these out. So each one of you get one. If you want more than one, you can have more than one. But ways to get the beets in your body, in your life, in your lifestyle. Because it's going to be very crucial. Everything that we need comes from the ground.
Amen.
Beets come from the ground. And this is our blood. Okay? So let me blend a little bit. I'm going to do I'm going to start with a cup. Well, half a cup.
Brother Ben, do you have that mason jar still?
It's up in the top of the kit. I'm going to start with a half first and see. We don't want it real thick. We want it thin so that it'll be tasty. So let's see. Dear Lord, please bless us as we do thy will.